Servus and hello, Matthias here, and this is Singletrack. Join me and let's together hop back over across the pond to wintry Innsbruck, Austria. Rosanna Buchauer is in the Singletrack house this week. Rosanna is the course record holder of the Eiger Ultra Trail 51K. She came in 5th at the UTMB CCC in 2022, that's this year, and also 5th at the Long Trail 80K race at the World Mountain and Trail Running Championship in Thailand just a few weeks ago, wearing Team Germany jersey. As a trail runner, Rosanna is supported by Dynafit, Powerbar, and Sunto. And in her real job, she works as a project manager for Tourism Tyrol, one of the Alps' largest and most well-known tourist regions. Yeah, we got much to talk about, and of course we chat about her incredible year of racing and how she got into trail and mountain running. We talk about Innsbruck hosting next year's World Mountain and Trail Running Championships and what it means to wear your country's colors. But before we dive into the conversation, I want to take a brief moment and thank you all for listening. Thank you for being part of the Singletrack community and for taking these conversations with you on your runs while driving in your car or doing dishes. This podcast has been an absolute incredible fun project to create, produce, and host, and I really appreciate you all tuning in each week. So thank you. And now, let's hear from Rosanna. Live on Singletrack. Super excited to have you here on the show. You're calling in from Germany, Austria, right? Germany? Yeah. Austria right now. I see on the video that my listeners can't see that it's already dark over where you are at. Where are you calling in from exactly?
I'm calling from Axams in Tyrol, and yeah, it's already dark here because the winter season is starting, so 6 p.m. means, yeah, pitch dark.
Pitch dark, perfect. So you are in beautiful Tyrol. Give us the next big city so we kind of get an idea where you are located.
Yes, Innsbruck is the next big city, and it's quite famous for skiing and also for running and beautiful mountains. That's also the reason why I moved here.
Nice. So where are you from originally?
Germany. I'm from Bavaria in Germany.
So what brought you then to Innsbruck across the border?
I mean, I've always been living in Bavaria, which is very close to the border to Austria, and I wanted to go to university, but still live in the mountains. And then Innsbruck was the perfect match of having good university and great mountains. That's
a new thread that we have here on this podcast. Like, it's funny. Like I mean, I left Germany decades ago now, but Innsbruck wasn't really on my radar much. But I'm now hearing of so many people who are going to university in Innsbruck. That university must be huge and super popular.
I'm not so sure if it's the university. I think it's rather the mountains, and then it's nice to have a university to kind of also do your studies while you enjoy the outdoors.
So it's the combination of I can study close to where the mountains are.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense though, right? So that means you at a fairly young age decided that you love mountains already. I mean, you're from Bavaria, so you grew up with mountains. You didn't grow up in the Flachland, in an area where there are no hills at all. But Bavaria has nice mountains. You wanted more mountains?
Not more mountains, but I think just stay in the mountains, but still be far enough away to move out, to have your own apartment and still live in the mountains. And then, with 2 hours drive to Innsbruck, that was perfect for me.
Nice. So what did you study in
my
Innsbruck?
bachelor I did in management and economics, and my master's I also did in Innsbruck in management, communication, and IT.
We're being like all very professional and practical right now. You are obviously a trail runner, and that's the reason why you're on the show. And we're going to be talking a lot about trail running. But I saw on your LinkedIn that you're working for Tourism Tyrol, and I want to hear all about it because the Tyrol region is not just one of the most beautiful regions in the Alps, but obviously that's going to be a hard competition. Lots of areas will claim that as their first spot. But you are sort of one of the biggest in your marketing and tourism outreach. I feel like your brand reaches the furthest.
Yes, we have a very strong brand. That's true. I think the whole organization did a great job the past years, and we positioned ourselves very well in the sports marketing and sports destination. And Tyrol tourism grew from like a normal tourism organization to this. I would call it a love brand. So it's really known, and the red Tyrol logo stands for winter sports and fun in the mountains.
So what's your role in the organization? What are you responsible for?
I'm in the strategic planning for, like, we have different topics we dive into deeper to see if there's a potential for tourism offers. And I'm at the moment responsible for the health sector and the climate change adaptation, because that's also growing very fast, especially with winter sports and skiing and all year tourism.
I mean, I have to apologize to my listeners because I'm super excited about this topic, and they're probably tuning in, wanting to hear about trail running. But I find it super fascinating because I grew up in Stuttgart, and the Alps obviously were the standard vacation destination. So the Alps have always been sort of a place of all the happiest memories in my life. So tourism is hugely important, and it's so fascinating coming here from the West Coast, where we have little tourism offices and we have little efforts. But what you're doing in the Alps, because it's also connected to generations of tourism marketing, is on a completely different level. The villages, the cities around, they only survive because of tourism, right? Tourism is a huge economic driver, more so than just, okay, I guess the mountains are pretty here. We need to somehow make sure that we have a few parking spots.
Exactly. It's really a huge economic sector. And as you say, like, we create memories here, and we have families where the grandchildren come now and their grandparents already went here for skiing. And that's what we still try to build, like, to create memories so they want to come back and have a very good time.
Yeah. And the advantage that the Alps have over many of the West Coast destinations is that you've invested in tourism infrastructure many generations ago. And so you've got already that platform to really take advantage of four-season tourism, right? When many other areas, like if there's a little ski resort here on the West Coast, well, once there's no snow in the springtime, there is nothing going on. It sits empty. And economically, that's super hard to justify, right? When I grew up in the foothills of the Alps almost, and I never went in the winter. My family didn't ski, and for me, the Alps was all about summer, right? So you've always had the ability to pull in people all parts of the year, right?
Yes. And also, as you say, with the infrastructure and the cable cars, you can go to the mountains all year.
And you've built up something that, in another aspect that I find super fascinating, is that you've built up that ownership of these cable cars and hotel infrastructure on a very local basis. Like, the local communities own these places rather than what we often would, especially here in North America, where everything is chain operated and corporation owned. Your villages own the infrastructure, and that brings a whole different kind of trust and understanding, and also financial wealth for these communities.
Yes, and also a lot of family-owned businesses and hotels.
I noticed. Do you know that podcast, Servus, Grüezi, Hallo from the Zeit? It's a
I heard about it, but
it's a German podcast. If you're into, it's a Transalpine podcast. There's an Austrian, a Swiss, and a German. They're talking about the differences in their country, and the Austrian lives most of the time in Innsbruck, and he talks about tourism and how important it is for the region, but also for the entire country. So that's why I know so much. Okay, well, this is so. Well, let's finish off the tourism part with if Americans would want to come to your region. What are the things that they should be doing and looking for? What time of the year should they come, and what should they experience? Give us like a couple things that they should be doing.
I think it's beautiful all year round, but I think the perfect time to come is in springtime because you can still go skiing in the ski resorts, in the higher ski resorts, in the glaciers, and you can already have a beautiful time in the city of Innsbruck. And there's this really fun thing to do at the Nordkette mountain range, which is just above Innsbruck. And it's a very typical Tyrolean thing, and it's called Fiegeln.
Okay.
And you have this very fun, short skis you put on your mountain boots or on your ski boots. And then you just go down as fast as possible without doing curves or anything. And I think that's a thing you should experience because I have not seen it anywhere else.
That is amazing. I need to find a clip. I found some video online where I've seen that the first time just a couple weeks ago, and I hope I can remember and put a link in the show notes to this because that sounds like crazy. That's as crazy as toboggan rodeln, but on skis. And the skis are super short.
Yeah.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then you have restaurants and a lot of cable cars going to experience the mountains, either skiing or just looking at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the beauty of why I love the Alps is your local cuisine. I'm like every winter I buy myself at least one cookbook that I love cooking and baking, and I love Alpine cuisine, and I'm trying to I don't know how many Germknödel recipes I have now. So are you team Germknödel or team Kaiserschmarrn?
Kaiserschmarrn. Definitely.
Kaiserschmarrn?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That was a very quick response.
It's the best.
I should ask you for a rest. Do you make it, or is it one of those things where you just always go out because you know that there are too many places that make it well that it's worthwhile to just get it from going out?
Both. I would say both. Like, of course, when skiing, it's the best to go to a mountain hut. But sometimes when it's like an early evening and already dark outside, it's really good also to make it at home and have a very good recipe.
Okay, all right. So you have to pass me on your recipe.
Yes, I will.
Fantastic. Okay, all right. So when you're not eating Kaiserschmarrn, you also run trails. So let's pull back again in history. When you moved to Innsbruck, were you already running mountains and trails? Was that already a focus, or did you discover this when you looked out the window towards the Nordkette?
Yes, I actually moved to Innsbruck for snowboarding. And my goal was to become a really cool and good snowboarder and do also like the jumps in the park. And then I just did the running in summer, for fun and to work a little bit on my endurance. And then it was always super busy to run in Innsbruck along the river. And like when I do sports, or when I'm out in nature, I rather like it with less people. So I was like, this river run is always busy with like people walking their dog or other runners. So I started to run up the Nordkette and found that there are less people, and then I also found it's more fun to run uphill and downhill. That's kind of how it all started.
That is amazing. So for people who don't know, the Nordkette is a very famous mountain range that can be seen pretty much from anywhere in Innsbruck. And I also have a really good video. There is a Black Diamond video, I think, that was just released the last few months, where a guy who works for Black Diamond, who lives in Innsbruck, leaves his house and takes public transportation and then runs up and traverses the entire Nordkette. It's a super cool video. I will try to link that too. Okay, so you discover running. So here's my big question. Do you, because hiking, speed hiking exists just for adventure, just to go out and have fun. At what point do you decide, well, I enjoy this for fitness, let me put on a bib, let me sign up for a race, let me see how that is, doing an organized event rather than just doing it for exercise and fun?
Yeah, that was actually a rather spontaneous idea. I was doing a 6 months travel the world, like around the world ticket with my best friend, and we've been traveling a lot of different countries, and we tried yoga and we tried surfing and we went biking and we went into the jungle. But I was missing a little bit the structured sports or like a challenge. So when I was coming home, I asked a friend who studied sports at the moment, do you think it's possible to run a marathon in 4 months? And he was like, yeah, it's possible. And I was like, yeah, can you tell me what kind of training I need to do? And that was the reason why I put on a bib. I needed a goal to move back into structured training and into sports. And then I enjoyed the race, and I enjoyed that you push your limits much, much further than in training. And then I did some more races and some more and didn't stop.
Did you look for that structured training because you missed that from snowboarding? Was the snowboarding training sort of a focus where you've experienced it before, or are you just sort of a very structured person that you like sort of spreadsheets?
I was never like really training for snowboarding. It was always more fun, and I would say, never good enough to really do a structured training in snowboarding. But I did ice speed skating from like when I was a child to when I was 16 years old, and I always liked. Yeah, I think I like the structure, but more than that, I like to have a goal to work for. And I was missing that a little bit in like traveling and studying, and everything was flexible, everything was easy, and I kind of felt like I have too much time, and like I like to party, but not all the time. So I was like, I need something else. And then sports was just the best.
Yeah. It's fascinating because so many people do sports because they feel the weight of the world on them and they just need sort of an escape. But the escape is sort of just fun and not really structured. So for you, looking for something structured, to other people that could feel almost like too much pressure because they just want to have fun and not the structure. But that focus gives you something. Try to explain this a little bit. Like if you're saying you're looking for structure, what is it that excites you there?
I think what excites me is just the pure joy of running. Like when I'm doing my training, I don't think about the structure or too much about pace or time. Then I'm just in the moment. But in order to kind of get my daily routine done and kind of go to bed in the evening and be happy with my day, it helps me a lot to have my training done. So at the moment, I feel like if everything is going crazy, but I get my training done, then it was a good day. So it helps me to be content and happy and structure my day around that training, which I prioritize, and that helps me a lot to be happy, I think.
That's a really good way of describing it. That sort of the training is a moment for yourself. And by adding that in, you feel like you completed the day. You didn't just work. You didn't just go through the motions of the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you run your first marathon and you enjoyed it. And so at what point did you then figure out that you were actually good at that this was actually something that you could really push?
It took I think 1 or 2 more years where I was just enjoying the mountains, did some local races, and then I signed up for a 50-kilometer race, and surprisingly was second, and everyone was surprised, and I was surprised, and then I thought wow, I didn't train so much, or I didn't do structured training for that 50K, and it worked. Maybe I'll do some more races. So it was rather a coincidence.
I mean, that's amazing. I discovered running and races so much later in my life that for me, finishing races is all about like barely making it to the finish line. But I think it's kind of cool to be able to step up to the line and then sort of not knowing what to do with the feeling of actually doing well, right? It's sort of like, oh, should I be doing something about this? So how were the thoughts then? So you've loved the training, you have a background in sports, all of a sudden you found a sport where you're really good. What goes in your mind? What thoughts are in your mind of like, how do you then emphasize that? Because you have got a professional life, you've got other things. Like, how explain sort of that process of going into it. This is something that I'm now taking serious.
Yeah, it was at first. I really did not want to take it seriously because I was afraid that I would take away the fun. So I have never used a watch. I didn't want to do structured training. And then 3 years ago, I had a season where I had some problems with my foot, and I was like, I don't know how to work around this injury, and when should I start running again? What should I do? And then a friend said, maybe you want to work with a coach. And then I was like, no, I don't want to buy a watch. I don't want to track my training. I don't want somebody else to tell me when to run, because I just want to be in the mountains and have a good time. And then I started to work with that coach, and it was the best decision. So it didn't take the fun away, it added more fun, and it took away that thinking of what should I do? Should I run 3 hours or 4 hours? Should I run fast or should I run slow? So I kind of gave all the science and responsibility to my coach, and I just ran. So it was even better than before. And then like my success in races was even bigger. So I was just like, okay, this is great. I will continue this.
That's an amazing progression of how you sort of slid into this. Is this now where you're at adding pressure? Like, how does it work with your regular job? I mean, you're flying around the world and competing in races. And like, what does your employer say? Are they okay with you taking so much? Like, how do you balance that out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like starting this year in March or in February, I was talking to my employer to reduce my hours. And I think that was also a big step into the professional sports. So I had almost 5 months where I didn't have to work. I did some like online studies, but I was quite flexible with it. And since August, I'm only working 50%. So that helps a lot in training and also in traveling. And I think it also helps me to focus on my work for those 20 hours I work at the moment and be the best at work, but still have time for training and especially for recovery. And so I think that's why my employer, or I hope at least, is okay with it, because I take a lot of motivation from the sports to bring into work, and sometimes I'm also really happy to focus on something else and to use my brain specifically and give some rest to my body.
You're making a good point. You're talking about your focus on your training. If you want to take your running serious, then it's not just about taking time off for specific races and traveling to them, but it's the focus on really structured training that ultimately takes a lot of time out of your day and requires some flexibility from your employer. I'm hearing this a lot from the European athletes that are interviewed, that they have great flexible employers, hopefully, who are able to allow them to work part-time, because that then in return takes a big pressure of you. You want to be a professional athlete because you want to run, but having the pressure on being a full-time professional athlete is a completely different level, right?
Exactly. And I think that's why it's for me, or it has always been really important to also work and put time and effort into professional career outside sports, because I think that that's what keeps the fun and the ease of the training and running. Because if I decide tomorrow I don't want to do races anymore, I still have an income. I can still pay my rent. I'm still the same person, and I can focus on other things. But if you're a full-time athlete and only living off sponsoring or like race success, then it might be a harder decision.
How was it for you? And I know this is a little bit deep into the weeds from a conversation, but I think I'm fascinated by that. And I hope my listeners are too, because it's sort of a world that we on the outside don't really see. Like you accidentally become a good runner, and then you win races, and then you make this decision. You think about how could I reduce my hours? Obviously, you need to compensate that with income. Did the sponsors come to you? Did you actively seek them out? Like, how does this sort of meeting happen? Like, do you reach out and say, hey guys, I'm thinking about it? Is there anybody out there? Or do people come up to you and say, you're so great, we want to write you checks? How does this work?
Yeah, I think it's both, but I also have to say it's not as easy as you think, that you do a good race and then you get those emails like, yeah, you're so great, we want to sponsor you. It's, yeah, unfortunately, especially in the sports of trail running, it's also kind of hard work. And for me, it was really difficult in the beginning to write an email yourself and be like, hey, I won some races, do you maybe want to help me out with products or something? Because you feel like, yeah, I don't want to sell myself, or I don't want to tell someone else that it's good to invest in me. But then you talk to some people who are professional athletes and they tell you, yeah, that's the thing to do. So I think it's also a very individual and personal decision what or how much you want to reach out, and also how much you kind of want to be on social media and how much you want to, a little bit sell yourself. And so I always try to find like partners, not just sponsors, but partners who I think like, yeah, I like the vision of the company, I like their product, and then maybe ask. And if it works, it works. And then, of course, with more races and more success, then there were also companies coming up to me. But it's not like in this ideal or like dreamy world where you think, yeah, I do some good races and then everyone wants to give me money. That's not the case.
Mm-hmm. You're just like people, just like sending you endless emails. No.
Unfortunately, at least not in trail running. So
yeah, right. Not in trail running.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense from the outside? It looks like that a little bit, that while you want a partner in supporting your trail running, increasingly it feels like what the brands want is just an influencer. Like, they don't really care that you're winning races. They care that you have lots of followers on Instagram.
I think that changes, and I think it depends on your partner. I think there are definitely brands who care about how many followers do you have? I want to sell my products. But then there are brands who really focus on you being an athlete and you winning races, and not how you position yourself on social media. And I think I'm quite lucky with my main sponsor, Dynafit, because they really have the philosophy and vision to be the brand from athletes for athletes. So they value the athlete part and your results much higher than your social media. And so that was also a reason why I like to work with them, and I enjoy to work with them still. And I think also other brands in trail running still focus on the sports and the results, or maybe differentiate. So they have like maybe an athletes program for sponsorship and then maybe an influencer program, which is also fair enough, I would say. But of course, there are brands who just send you products or money if you have that amount of followers. And that's what I mean with the individual decision. You have to kind of ask yourself, do you want to get free stuff, or do you want to get money, or do you want to be the best possible in your sports? And I defined sports is more important. So I rather have a partner giving me less, but valuable things or important things to focus on my sports career than to produce videos or be an influencer.
Yeah. And there might be then less pressure to post weekly or so, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's also, I think, quite lucky with my job, because I still have like this income monthly where I can totally rely on. and then like the other deals are just an add-on.
Yeah, I think that's some really good insight in how to navigate this, and you know that it's not about the sponsor. Hey, where can I get a check? But where is a good partner? Who is a good partner? Right, really building that relationship. Right, then there is also less of a pressure to perform and to always sort of deliver, because you are actually partnering with them, right? You're not just creating work that you deliver for a client, right? Or for an employer, if you will. All right, so we jumped a little bit ahead because obviously by you having sponsors, that predicated that you actually did really well in races that had a high profile. What was your first race that you signed up for that you did really well, where you were like, okay, this is, people are taking note. This is not just some little community mountain run. This is actually, you know, a big deal. This is a big race.
I think like the first like appearance where I would say people internationally have seen that I am capable of competing at a higher level was in the Skyrunner World Series and the Livigno Marathon in Italy, where I took third place in quite a strong field, and I don't think many people were thinking I could make it to the podium. I wasn't thinking I would make it to the podium. So
the Skyrunning series is fascinating because that's something that as a series doesn't really exist over here in the US. Like in the US, we often focus on long 100-mile distances. So the ultra part is more in focus than the mountain running part. Because, well, I mean, there are myriad of reasons for it. But what's fascinating with the mountain running part is that you are in a reasonably exposed terrain sometimes. So how did you develop that? I mean, this does take some skill and some comfort beyond just running fast on gravel roads.
Exactly. I think that's where I'm coming from. I have never been like a runner. I've always been a mountain person. And that's why I also started with skyrunning, because there you don't run so much. There is like Via Ferrata parts, climbing parts, really steep ridges. And since I've been doing that since I was a little child, for me it felt easy. And I've never been afraid on steep ridges. I could move fast. And then I experienced if I move fast there and then run okay on the gravel roads, I can still be on the podium. And then now I'm working rather into the parts of running, because that's where I still have a lot of room for improvement.
So you go from the skyrunning races, which are shorter distances, and you're slowly kind of bumping your distance up.
Yeah.
Right? So was CCC this year your first 100K?
Yeah,
or
my first 100K race and experience.
So obviously we're jumping a little bit, but making CCC your first 100 is bold.
And I knew it's risky, but then, as I say, I need goals. That was always my drive, and then I thought, well, I need a big goal to do big training, so might as well be UTMB CCC.
What races did you do to qualify, to get yourself in? This is getting so tricky now.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, because it was 2021 was still the year with qualifying with ITRA points and running stones. I think the Großglockner Ultra Trail was one of the qualifying races, and then just my ITRA points were the main reason why I didn't have to enter the lottery, but why I was just listed as an elite athlete.
Oh, yeah, because you had high enough.
Exactly.
Enough points, right? There is sort of an interesting transition phase that only got more complicated because of COVID, where UTMB announced the change, and obviously there needed to be a little bit of a transition, but then with the rollover for COVID, it was sort of even more complicated, right? Yeah. How people got in. So we're going to talk about CCC. Super competitive field. I mean, perhaps talk a little bit first about how UTMB is different to other races. Because, again, and I've said this many times on the podcast, to American runners, sometimes UTMB is the only race that exists in Europe. In the same way Europeans only know of Western States and Hard Rock over here, right?
Yeah.
But obviously there are lots of big production races with thousands of runners. You mentioned Großglockner Trail, Zugspitz Trail, right? They aren't even part officially now of the UTMB circuit. So how is UTMB and UTMB in Chamonix particularly different from other European races?
Yeah, I was asking me or myself the same question because I had a lot of friends who were telling me it's different. It's just different, and you have to go there once in your time as a trail runner. And then I've seen these videos from like Courtney Dauwalter running through crowds, clapping hands, and I was like, I mean, we have cool races, but there's never like a crowd. There is at the finish line there is a few people, but there aren't hundreds of people. And then everyone told me like Chamonix is celebrating the sports and the French people in general are more into trail running. And so I was like, I have to go there. And then it was really like they told me. It's, yeah, when you run the last K into the finish line, it's just crazy. And everyone is going nuts. And every ice cream store and every bar, they have UTMB shirts. And I think in Europe, it's that one race where you really, really feel like trail running is a huge sport. And on the other races, you still feel like this freak who runs a long time.
Which is interesting because you still get the numbers, right? I mean, you go to another race and the amount of runners that sign up is still in the thousands, right? You can go to Zugspitze or Großglockner. So they are not small events. So the runners show up, right? But it is a different atmosphere in Chamonix. The sport, the way the spectators come out, is completely unique.
Exactly, the spectators. I think the spectators are the difference. And also for me, like almost my whole family was coming with me to Chamonix. And I think it was so cool for me to show them, hey, this sport is really cool and people care about it. Because at the local races, it was always just the few families or partners from the runners. And now there were like really spectators and families cheering on for other runners and just so many more people. And so I think this whole experience was cool for me as a race, but also for my whole family as an event, and experience the sport just a little bit closer than they would do at the other races.
Yeah. Is that complete side conversation? Is that something that you're taking back to your Tourism Tyrol? That you're saying, how can we bring that to Innsbruck?
We have the World Championship next year, and I was like, you have to make the finish line into the old town. You have to bring the people from the ice cream stores and from the cafes, and you have to make T-shirts. That's how Chamonix works. Please bring that to Innsbruck, and yeah, it can be as great. We just have to create the atmosphere.
Considering that you've experienced UTMB, Chamonix, you've experienced now the World Championship in Thailand, which obviously was the first time around, and we're getting to this in a little bit. And now Innsbruck is going to do it in 23. And you work for Tourism Tyrol. You're positioned really well to sort of playing a very interesting role here.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting challenge if you're going to be able to run it or if you have to work the event.
No, luckily in that case, I'm not working in our event team. But we have a great event team, and I hope they'll do great. Yeah.
So we should obviously talk about your CCC race for a little bit, because you did really, really well. And as we already said, it was your first 100K. So was it a race where just everything clicked? Was this a perfect day out for you? I mean, you didn't come in first, so it wasn't 100% perfect.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's always or still room for improvement, but for me on that day, it was almost perfect because, as you say, it was my first 100K. I had no idea what's waiting for me. I had no idea how my stomach will react. I had no idea how my legs will respond. I mean, I knew for 6 or 7 hours I should be fine because that's what I did in 50, 60, 70K races or in long mountain tours. But then I was like, what will happen after 10 hours? What will I think? What will my body do? And it just worked. Like, I didn't throw up. I kept my energy bars, my gels, and my legs kept moving. And my mind was still very determined to reach that finish line and to reach it as fast as possible. So I wouldn't say it was the all perfect race in all hours, in all minutes, but it was quite close to a perfect day out.
Yeah, that's amazing. At this point, and this is where I'm not 100% connected to the German trail running scene. Did people already know your name beforehand, or was this the ultimate thing that catapulted into here you are? Did you already know that you would be running for Team Germany back then, or was that the instigator?
I think for like trail running insiders or really people from the scene, my name was already known because I was already able to position myself in the season of 2021 on Germany's position #1 in the ITRA ranking. So people who really know the points and watch the races, they knew I'm capable of a few good races, or I can pull some things off. But he was always on the 50 and 60 kilometer races. So I think on the 100, everyone was like, yeah, she's trying. And yeah, like it was
She's
like, I think
trying.
a little bit an open book. I mean, some people said that they would expect good results. Some were like, yeah, let's see. And for the German national team, I think I was on their mind to watch since I was, on the ranking #1, but on shorter distances. But I think the confirmation and we're gonna send her to Thailand was happening after CCC.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Fantastic. So, how does it feel to now switch gears when CCC you run for yourself, right? You wear your sponsor jersey, but in the end you run for yourself. How different does it feel? Because in trail running, this world championship was the first time in that shape or fashion that in trail running we put on our country's jerseys, right? I mean, it hasn't really been done in that big fashion. How does that feel?
To me, it felt very strange in the beginning because I've been living in Austria and in Tyrol for 12 years now, but I never felt like I'm living in a different country because Bavaria and Tyrol, they're so similar. There are the mountains, we have a similar dialect. But then people were like, oh, you're running for Germany. And I was like, yeah, because I am German. You're right. And then at the same time, it was this huge honor because like I'm 32 now. So I never thought that I would take part in a world championship for sports representing my country. So like when I got like the outfit with like Germany all over, I was like, wow, this is really happening. And like Germany, there are a few runners and they're sending me. So it was a big honor, I think.
And it's cool, right? Because growing up in Germany, the national teams are a big deal, not just the soccer national team, right? But I mean, we love our Winter Olympics, our Summer Olympics, right? I mean, having a jersey like that, be representing a country, that is a big deal. And as much as the World Championship in Thailand was tiny compared to like the Olympic Games, I mean, that's right. But it also gave people the first time a taste of what it could feel like if trail running would be an Olympic sport.
Yes, and I think it for the first time, it really in all parts of Germany it put a spotlight on the sports. Because I mean, of course, I'm realistic. It's yeah, of course, I was sent for Germany, but then trail running is only big in the Alps, which is a tiny part of Germany. But still, like there were articles in newspapers about the championships, about my race, and I was like, okay, finally, people realize this is like a tough sport, and yeah, we have a national team now, so this can be something really cool in the future.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you competed in the 80 kilometers, correct? The longest distance, and you came in fifth.
Yes.
No, amazing, absolutely. I sometimes I forget to mention. I don't think we mentioned it for CCC. You came in fifth too at CCC.
Yes. So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
forward.
exactly. See, sometimes we're talking about these past results, and I know them because I follow you on Instagram and stuff, and I do the research, but I don't actually mention it. So yes, amazing performance. Congratulations. That was just a couple of weeks ago. I don't feel saying congratulations for CCC. That feels like it's already months ago, even though that performance was incredible too.
Thank you.
So, how explain a little bit how this event felt different because it's such a new event. I think listeners are interested in that in trying to get a sense of how was this event different because some people were saying, do we need another event that crowns the best trail runner? Well, yeah, because you're wearing your country's jersey, so there is definitely need for that. But how does this sort of feel different for you as a runner being there compared to you showing up individually as in, here I am just running for myself?
Yeah, I think it was two big things in Thailand. For one, as you say, like you run for your country, and what I felt was really special that you have to be nominated, and there are only a few runners per distance that get nominated for your country. So you knew also your competitors. They were nominated, and they are maybe not all or not all the best runners were there, but they are part of like the top runners in their country. And now we're all competing. That was really great. And then the second cool or interesting thing about Thailand was that for I would say 80% of the athletes there, it was totally unknown conditions. I mean, everyone coming from Europe was not used to the humidity and the climate in general and the heat. And the few runners from like Asia, like I mean, there were countries there who are used better to the heat than we are. But it was just interesting to see how will all those professional and top athletes react to the different conditions.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and that felt special. Yeah. Why would you go to Thailand to run? Like there was a first reaction a lot of people in Europe had, but then it was like, yeah, it's the world championships and I'm able to go. Of course I go, and I don't know how the conditions and my body will react, but I will try. And that was I think really cool.
How was it from an organizational support? So you get invited. Is the German trail running organization funded? Like, do they even exist? Like, I've never really heard of them because it's not an Olympic sport yet. Like, is there where? How does the organizational structure work?
Yeah, the organization structure is connected to the track and field in Germany, which is quite established, like road running, track, and that's just a department there. It's quite small department, I would say, and with less budget than the road running, but it's there, and of course, from the like structures and the organization, they profit from their knowledge from road running. But yeah, they're still building it, and the Department of Trail Running then set up the process of us going to Thailand.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. So you, from having gone there, you got a sense that this is a good thing, right? Because in some people say, UTMB is the world championship and that's all we need. But it's such a different structure because you're not running for your country when you're running for at UTMB.
Yeah, I think it's a huge chance for the sports. Also, the combination of mountain championships and trail run, like mountain running and trail running championships, to combine that and to bring the athletes together. And I think it's one of the first formats where you can really have a championships over like this week in different distances. So you have like the vertical, the short uphill, you have the shorter distances, the longer. And if there will be a benchmark in the future, this could be an option to really say all the good runners on ultra distance on like 80K will compete there, and you can see how well you position yourself. So I think it's a chance.
Yeah, it does have potential. And then now for this year, for next year, it coming to Europe will give it an interesting bigger focus, just because trail running is so big in the Alps that just from an infrastructure and from a time zone difference and stuff, I think it will create quite an event. It has big potential there.
I think so too. And I think also for like the countries to send athletes, it's a little bit easier. Like, I mean, France and Switzerland and Italy, they already sent big teams to Thailand, but especially Germany, we had a quite small team. And now having the championships, almost out our doorstep, we have the chance and the potential to send a bigger team. Also, the Austrians maybe or might send a bigger team. And I think also the trails are more what we would define as trail running or what we are used to. And I also have the feeling if they do a good job in like the live streaming and the media attention, this could be something really interesting to watch also for the spectators.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. Now we should talk about your race, because it is so fresh in the memories, and not just talk about the big organizational structures. 80K in the humidity of Thailand. How was it out there? How much were you able to adjust and sort of adjust yourself to running in a completely different environment?
Yeah, I think for me it was really helpful to be there 1 week earlier, to have my body, or to give my body time to adapt and to also run on the course a little bit. I was quite surprised how similar the trails are regarding the steepness and the underground. So there was like rocks and gravel and some roots. But what was completely different was not what was under your shoes, but what was around you. I mean, the plants were different. The noises were so different. Like when I run around the Austrian Alps, sometimes it's really quiet, or you hear like one bird. And in the jungle, I don't know what was going on. It was like a concert. It was like sometimes I was like, I don't know if it's like artificial or if it's an animal, but it sounds crazy. And then of course, like you started running and you immediately started sweating like crazy, even at an easy pace. But I just thought, like, I didn't feel the heat so much. I just felt that I'm sweating. So I was like, I just don't care that I'm sweating all the time, but I feel quite okay. So I think that helped me a lot to just ignore the sweat running down and to feel okay. And I was focusing on drinking a lot, and then focus just on a race as I would do at home. And if there was a cool surrounding, like a mountain village, which looked so different than our mountain village, or like banana trees, and I just tried to enjoy it. But the race itself, I kind of structured as I would do at home. So I focused on my heart rate, I focused on drinking and eating, and yeah.
If you say you focus on heart rate, do you wear a heart rate monitor while you're running races, or do you just feel it based on your experience? How do you measure that during a race?
No, I always wear a chest belt for my heart rate, but I also combine it with my feeling, because I always use it in training, so I kind of know what my heart rate should feel like, and then I combine it. And also in long races, like on the 80 kilometers or on the 100 kilometers, sometimes the heart rate then drops in the end because of your body's so exhausted. And then I go rather with my feeling and how my legs feel, and if I can still push or if I should take it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, amazing performance in Thailand. So now you had CCC in the summer, and this was a fairly late season race. I mean, by the time you raced in Thailand, you probably already had some snow in the mountains in Austria, right? So
yeah, exactly.
For you, Are you shifting gear and now finding ski and snowboard over the winter time, or do you have any other races on your calendar? No, probably the season is over for you. Do you take an off season? Describe your next couple months for you.
Yeah, like it was my last race this season in Thailand, and now I'm really taking a break. I don't have any training planned at the moment. I don't run at the moment. I do some easy stretching and whatever I feel like. And then in like 1 or 2 weeks, I will start my winter training, which is a little bit running, but mostly ski touring and cross country skiing. Because where I live, we usually have a lot of snow, and it's just a lot of fun to do different sports in winter, and also much easier because of ice and snow. It's hard to run.
That is the big secret that every American tries to unlock, because over here, getting to go cross country and backcountry skiing is a lot more tricky for most people. It's easier for us to find desert in many ways if you want to train all summer. But I think we look at Europe and we see that you're all switching to skis, and we're trying to figure out how we can emulate it, because it seems like such a successful strategy, both from a cross-training point of view, getting something different for your body, but also from a continuous training, because clearly it works for you in the mountains. You continue to get steep vertical gain in and stuff.
Yes, exactly. And I feel also for the mind, it's just a good break to now have this kind of 2 or 3 weeks off season, and then to get your skis out and adapt to that, but also have like a new challenge, but also a new way of fun. And then after 4 or 5 months, you already looking forward again to put on your running shoes more often. So it's never getting boring, or you're never sick of that one thing, because it changes after 4 or 5 months.
It's a good point, right? It's not just the physical change, it's the mental change, right? That you're really focusing on something else. Now, when you do this, you are still following a training plan, or do you just do this for fun now, the winter skiing?
No, I also I think next week or in 2 weeks, I will start back on the training plan. And then we also on ski touring, I do everything. I do endurance, like 4 or 5 hours on skis, but I also do intervals, like uphill intervals on skis, work really well. Also on cross country. So it's still a training plan, but just used on different gear.
And for you, where you live, how far do you have to go to put your skis on? Can you just take a bus out, or do you have a gondola outside your house? How far do you have to go?
If it's a normal winter, I can start from my house.
Nice. It's been super dry so far in Europe.
Yeah, this year looks tough, but I mean, November, it's always difficult. And until Christmas, we take the gondola, or I take a bus for 10 minutes, or the car for 10 to 20 minutes. But usually, starting from Christmas to March, I can go from my doorstep.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. That's a nice place to live.
Yeah, it is. It is. I love it.
That is very cool. So now let's look at 2023. Do you have your year already planned out? What races are on the horizon, on the calendar? Where can we see you?
I still have to do my season planning, but of course I already spent some thoughts. And if I will be nominated for the German national team, for sure I will run the World Championships in Innsbruck, because it's really so close, and it would be so cool to run at home. Then UTMB is also on my calendar, but for UTMB I'm not sure yet what race.
Ooh.
Or will I try OCC, or will I try something else? So I have to make up my mind, and then I will build the other races around.
And for you, do you have the flexibility with UTMB that you are in the elite category, in the highest points, that you can pick what race you want, or have you gotten your stones?
And no, luckily I can pick what race I want to do, which is very cool. But still have to make up my mind.
Yeah. Are you flirting with the idea of doing the really big one?
It's on my mind, I have to admit, but I'm not sure, because it's very long, and it's this all night and all day, and I'm not sure if I'm ready yet, or maybe I'll put this out for another 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure.
It also, from a training point of view, it could impact because the World Championship is in October, right?
In June, beginning of June.
Oh, it's in June. Okay,
Yeah.
well, so then it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's a shorter distance, you really have to focus on that kind of training. Wherein, if it would be in October after late August UTMB, I think the switch would be hard.
Yeah, it would be crazy. But I think for the timing, it's quite good to have it beginning of June and then UTMB in August. There's still enough weeks in between.
Any other race, and I'm not trying to fish, but I like to kind of highlight other races in Europe that are beyond UTMB, right? That are other cool events that people should think about, look at. What are your favorite races in Europe that you like think about when you think scenery and stuff?
I think scenery and also spectators or like finish line atmosphere. The Großglockner Trail is really cool. Scenery and experience is also the Eiger Ultra Trail. I ran it this year. It's really nice, especially when you're lucky with the weather. It's amazing views. And then also here,
the Eiger is spectacular.
Absolutely.
Weather. I mean, the environment, and the Großglockner is essentially, that's the thing in Europe, right? That events try to emulate the idea of UTMB, meaning a circumnavigation of a mountain. And Großglockner, the big distance, is also a circumnavigation of Großglockner. And Großglockner is the tallest mountain in Austria,
exactly,
right?
Yes.
Good. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So Eiger, yes. The lottery just happened. My friend had his name in the lottery and sadly didn't get picked. He was very excited about the possibility of going out there.
Yeah. But also here in Tyrol, we have cool smaller races in the valleys, like in Pitztal or at the Wilder Kaiser region, and they are really beautiful and also quite technical, which I think is a cool experience to do. And they're usually really good with support and then also finish line and dinner, and there's beautiful hotels there where you can just stay then longer after the race and recover. So that's, I think, also good to choose.
If you say technical, describe it a little bit. Is that then already Via Ferrata style, that you have cables to hold on to, or is it just technical that you have lots of boulders and roots and rocks to climb over?
Both, but usually on the longer ones, it's rather like boulders and steep trails. On the short, there's usually a sky race in the whole event, which is then shorter. There is usually cables and a little bit climbing involved.
This is something that I am looking forward to experiencing once. I think that's a really fun thing that European races have, especially because you sometimes can start after you already went up a gondola or something, right? Where you sort of can play in a playground that is often inaccessible. Or, as you mentioned, the long ultra races sometimes don't really want to go over because based on time of day, it might be too treacherous, too dangerous to have people run certain sections, right?
Exactly, yeah. But it's really cool, and I would recommend like doing a sky race at Wilder Kaiser or some areas here where it's beautiful but technical.
Yeah, super. We'll need to make sure we'll add some links to some of these events. Absolutely. Well, super. Rosanna, this was an incredible conversation. And now, I mean, for me, as somebody who's constantly homesick to go on vacation in the Alps, this felt very, very nice. And now I feel like I need to make Kaiserschmarrn for dinner tonight.
You should.
Oh, yeah. You have to get me the recipe. You have to get me the recipe. For listeners, explain Kaiserschmarrn. I sort of brushed over it and said people just need to know it. Well, explain Kaiserschmarrn.
I think it's best, or the easy way to explain it, it's like a fluffy pancake, which is made into small pieces, and then you add some sugar on top and some nice berries or mashed apples, which tastes really good.
Yes, absolutely. And it tastes exceptionally well up on some mountain hut in between your ski tour or
Yes.
your hike. You're at the halfway point, right?
Yes, or on the way down when you don't have to go up anymore.
Yeah, exactly. When you're like, okay, I'll eat that and then I'll just slide back home.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Rosanna, do you want to tell people how they can get in contact with you? Do you have any links to share? What should people check out?
I think the easiest way is Instagram. I'll post regularly there, and yeah, it's Roxy Ro there. So yeah, I can send you the link, and that's the easiest way to follow. I put some training, some beautiful mountains there, and race results and reports, of course.
Fantastic. And then we probably also should link Tourism Tyrol to give people an idea of where you work, but also where you live and the region as a place to check out for people, right?
We find a lot of information and cool images and videos